This is Fam Electric Ghost, and we're live on the air with Christina Ketchen. That's how you say your last name?
Sure is.
Okay, great. Welcome to the podcast. How you doing today?
I'm doing really well. How are you, Phantom? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing well. It's just yeah, we love to talk to people live. That's kind of our jam as a podcaster. I know you're a podcaster too, and you
I
you
am.
have you have the Self Love Shift podcast. Is your podcast, right?
It is the self-love shift. Yes.
Yep. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to get into, you're not broken. You're just repeating what you've learned. But before we get to that, I always ask every guest a couple of questions and start off with, like, why is it, what motivates you and why do you do what you do?
Hmm. What motivates me is the internal freedom and lightness that we can get when we learn that we're not defined by what we believe to be true, that we've actually learned what we believe to be true and mirrored what we believe to be true. And there's the joy I get out of what I do is seeing light bulb moments for people when they recognize, oh, wow, I have free will and choice. I get to choose how I want to show up in the world, and I get to choose how I respond to things, and I can learn new ways. So in a bit of a nutshell, that's why I love what I do.
Well, I think that's great because I like people should like pay it forward with what they've learned. And I like to have this podcast space to kind of have a master class in humanity with each guest is kind of
Mm,
given benefit of their lessons learned in a long
beautiful.
form because a lot of things today are so short form. It's like kind of TikTok. Everybody gets these quick hits, and we like to
Yeah,
do more of the deep dive. what
love
what
it.
you can do in an hour. But one of the things I was reading about, like in the questions you're ready to answer, is this idea that people are either too much or not enough,
Mm,
and maybe like the spectrum in between.
hmm.
So how did you come to realize that? Is that kind of a focus for you to make people understand if they're going toward one pole or another?
I refer to it as this epidemic of not enoughness that's going on. And when we look back historically, I think it's always been in the background because we've had people and gurus teaching this for decades, in all honesty. But
Yeah.
I've learned that it is a theme I've been coaching for 10 years and having these conversations with hundreds and hundreds of people and realizing that underneath all of these moments of feeling stuck or hurt, heartbreak, grief, that there is this story or underlying current that's subconscious that is, I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, or I'm too much. And it's a real consistent theme in my conversations with people.
It seems like what I've also noticed is people are, in the box. They're kind of staying within a framework, and then we've got society on one hand telling people like corporate America says, "Oh, you got to have out of the box thinking," right? But then they put you in the cubicle, and then if you're neurodivergent, you have a problem when you get to your performance review because you didn't hit the mark within the bell curve because you're on the outer edge, and then they let you can do to a certain extent, but they want you to fit in the box, and then
Right?
they measure you on how well you fit in the box, even though they say they want the creativity that maybe comes out of the box.
Right.
And so you're kind of stuck in this conundrum. It's like, well, what do they want?
Yeah, I talk about this difference, this differential between subjective thinking and objective thinking. And we're historically and socially conditioned to believe that objective thinking is the way to go, right? Like, do you agree? Have you been taught
Yeah,
that? It's like, think this
yeah,
way.
yeah,
And really, the way I believe we should navigate life, and I learned this so profoundly from Wayne Dyer. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's left his mark in the world in a beautiful way. But subjective thinking is it comes from our internal knowing. And we have this internal wisdom. And somewhere along the way, we've been conditioned or told or again mirrored that's not what we should listen to. We should actually listen to the rules, the norm, the box, as you say. But the subjective thinking, that approach serves self far more, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think I was a sociology major, and I kind of dealt with
Mm.
people like social mores, anomie, the microcosm, the macrocosm, and a lot of things bleed into each other, right? So if you're in the microcosm and you've been told that you're not enough, that bleeds. Well, it's coming probably from the macrocosm. It came from your parents thinking that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to like put somebody through to toughen them up. Say you're
And
like,
or yeah, absolutely. And it's not that we're specifically told you're not enough, right? It's not that we need to hear those words, hey, you're not enough. It's the undercurrent and the internal messaging and role modeling that results in that thinking that's going on behind the scenes, right? Subconsciously.
yeah,
It's fascinating.
yeah. It's always as a creative person, because I wear a bunch of hats. I'm a software guy, and then I'm a podcaster. I'm a musician, so I'm doing left and
Right.
right brain. And what I tend to find is like they want you to, a lot of times, like society will tell you that you've got to be within the norm, right? And then you're spending all your time trying to do that, and then they say, well, you're not achieving your goals. It's like,
Mm,
well, to achieve your goals, you have to get out of your comfort zone. But then we're kind of
absolutely.
told it's safe to be in the comfort zone. It's like it's safer to not raise your hand. It's safer to not get shot down in the whiteboard meeting and let the alpha kind of take over than to
Mm-hmm.
challenge and actually put your point of view, because then you're vulnerable. And as an artist, though, your jam is that you're vulnerable.
Right.
You put your vulnerability out for the public to kind of deal with, and you have to have a somewhat of a thick skin, because most
Right.
of the time, if you put something out there that's not been heard or seen or known, it is rejected or it is confronted, and if people say, "Well, that's what is that?"
Has the potential to be rejected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of
Yeah.
times as artists, if you don't fit the algorithm or you don't fit the mold, they say, "Well, you're not doing what's hip."
Right.
You're
Right.
not doing,
In the
so
box, back to the box.
it gets
Yeah.
thrown out.
Yeah. And there's this other piece that subconsciously, like our nervous system, doesn't necessarily want us to try the new. To step out of the box and to be brave means that we're doing something different. And something new and different, it feels so scary because what our nervous system is trained to do is protect us.
Yeah,
So we
fight
stay
or
with
flight.
what we know to be true, right?
Yeah, it's like the fight or
And
flight. It's like you the wolf is at the door. Like the wolf was literally at the door 4,000 years ago. If you
right.
went out in the woods and didn't go back to the camp or go back to the village or go back to the safety of the walled city, you're at the mercy of the wild animals in the forest. So
Mm-hmm.
then he's like, then you might conform to what the king and the nobles tell you to do
Mm-hmm.
because it's too scary to be out there. And now we've got the virtual wolf at the door, like on, to hit you.
That's exactly it. Like historically, it comes from there. And our nervous system doesn't know the difference between the wolf and simple rejection. And I say simple rejection because if we look at objective versus subjective thinking, when it comes to rejection, that there's a reason for it. And we don't need to define who, and I say need to, this is where this a self-loving perspective comes from. Because a self-loving perspective means that when I get rejected or something that I create gets rejected, it does not define who I am and the value I add to the world. I got to carry on, try something new. And it sounds really simple, but there's just this perspective around knowing, when we are listening to that internal wisdom and that subjective thinking and being brave, we're living in line likely with our core values and how we want to show up in the world. And isn't that more important than what everybody else has to say about it?
Yeah, I think it's the one thing I've noticed with like artists or creators is we can pull from the inner and the outer and synthesize it like real time. So it's like an artist, the musicians especially, we can pull from like our subconscious, right? So there's a lot of stuff like in flow state where you're in the zone.
Mm-hmm.
It's you got your 10,000 hours to learn the scales and everything you learned how to do on your instrument. And then when you go out and play, you pull from that, but you like kind of let go of the logic of it, and you just like you have that muscle memory, and then you're calling stuff. You go back and you listen to what you did and say, "Hey, I pulled something from this show tune, or I pulled something from this. I didn't even know that was in my head." But like
Mm,
you're pulling stuff like a waking dream, but you're also pulling from what's going on in the venue, like the feel of the actual place you're in, the crowd that's happening. So there's real time inputs from the outside, and there's stuff coming from the inside, and you synthesize it all. But I
hmm.
think sometimes in the world that everybody lives in, if you're not as creative, you get kind of conditioned like you got to read from the teleprompter, you got to read from the script, you got to read from your index card, and you can't riff.
Mm,
You kind of locked
hmm.
in.
Hmm. What do you think that difference maker is?
I think it's like a permission structure. Like the artist, like, comes and says, "Well, I'm not just going to be a cover band. I have a right to have my voice heard, and I believe it should be heard." Where a
Hmm.
lot of people would say, "Well, I'm not Chopin. I'm not Shakespeare. I'm not Mark Twain. I'm not whoever." So they don't think they have a right to do it. So they kind of say, "Well, I'll stay in my lane." And the lane might be like, well, I'm just going to do 9 to 5, and I'm not going to be as creative. I'm just going to do this, or I'm going to stay within this zone of what I feel comfortable with,
Hmm.
rather than like Bowie said, he didn't feel that he was creative unless he was pushing, treading. He said he would like, now, not even wanted to drown, but he would tread water a little bit to kind of move creatively forward. You have to go into places that you're not comfortable. He had a
That
whole
com-
interview where he talked in that way. And I
hmm.
was always very like, yeah, this seems like he's always done that because he would change. He wouldn't just
Right,
stay in the same
right.
place. He would change his whole persona, change his whole genre. He would just move from place to place, and he didn't seem to worry about it.
Right. Yeah. Brave. He was brave. That piece about, my stuff isn't like Mark Twain or my stuff isn't like David Bowie or that sounds a lot. Well, it is comparison, 100% comparison. And also dabbles in that imposter syndrome piece.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't. They don't feel they have a right, you know, to be themselves. Like they've got a
Hmm.
pattern off of some canon. Like you got to be within, like even like within jazz. Like Miles Davis was the king of bebop, and then he created like fusion. It was kind of tagged as creating it, but people would say, "What? Like that's not jazz." But he was known for the canon of like bebop, cool jazz, and then he switched in the '70s, and people were like, "Oh, how could you do that? How could you do that?"
Hmm.
And when you have somebody in the canon, somebody who's like an originator, the guy who like that's the standard bearer, and then they change it, then
Hmm.
people don't even know what to do. It's
Hmm.
like, what's going on? It's like he's like, well, I got permission to do whatever I want.
Right. And again, bravery. And again, like for me in my line of work, that stems into this thing called boundaries, right? I refer to them as it's like we're in the game, middle of a monopoly game. You own property, I own property, we're collecting money, everything's going well. And then all of a sudden, a new rule gets applied to the game. And it's like, no, 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 no. That's not how this works. We already have the set of rules. And there's such resistance around that, right? It's like, no, you can't change things in the middle of the game. It's like, well, actually, I can when it serves me. Not in regards to the game of Monopoly, but in the game of life, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
when we have
Boundaries are
these like
real sticky.
moments where we're in these paradigm shifts. We're in this age like it's not the information age. It's kind of like, well, it is. It's like a second phase of the information age with like automation and AI
Hmm.
technology that's so powerful. It's like going from the horse and buggy to the like automobile, but like way beyond it, because this tech can actually eliminate not just one sector of the economy, what we knew, right? You can take all the truckers and say, guess what? You're gonna have autonomous trucks. You don't need the Teamsters. You can
Mm.
have lawyers that are autonomous AI lawyers. So you don't need as many lawyers. You don't need as many engineers. You don't need as many programmers. Like, where are all these people going to go all at once?
Mm-hmm.
So we're in this massive shift of, oh yeah, we'll go to universal income. You'll just be able to do freedom of thought. But the problem I have is thinking about it is, have people been taught that you can just go off and be an entrepreneur? You can have all this critical thinking. People have kind of been conditioned to be in certain roles. And then you're doing this massive paradigm shift, and you didn't actually change like their base capable, their foundations are like, whoa, that's not what I was taught.
Mm-hmm.
So
This conversation around AI, I know that I'm an optimist and a champion of the underdog always, but I feel like AI has the potential, yes, to replace jobs. I get that. But I also like to think it has the opportunity to help us do our job better. And, I get things from clients every now and again. It's like, hey, Christina, ChatGPT told me this about my problem that we're talking about. And I read it and it's like, you know what? That's pretty good advice. That's pretty on point. However, it's missing the nuance of this and this, which I get to learn about you from our one-on-one conversation, which AI can't touch.
yeah,
Like there's a piece of human connection there that it just can't speak to. So for everybody out there in the world who's afraid that AI is going to take everything over, I'm like, let's just try to reframe it and have it help us do our job better or help us in areas of life. But it can't. It has the potential to everything ever since COVID. Let's be honest, human connection has been challenged.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a kind of in combination with the robotic revolution. AI enables robots to be what science fiction people imagine them capable of doing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because of AI, you have robotic, trucks that can actually operate without a human, and that could actually get rid of a whole sector. Right? You can get warehouse workers; they can get rid of that sector. Like, so if for me as a musician, I can use that as a tool, and I can use it to enhance my creativity. My concern is that if you have a job that's like a blue collar job, right? That's not a tool. Like, that replaces that job.
Yeah.
Right. So where does that person go? So that's my concern, is if you do that all at once and you don't consider the entire human beings, like what if all these people talk about universal income, right? That's nice. They have this concept. However, we have lived in a world where these big tech companies have been using our personal information to make millions, if not billions of dollars. They have never decided to give us any income from that. So where is the history that they would suddenly give you income when they've been using your information and not giving you income for that? In fact, with AI, they take people's patents and copyrighted material and use it and don't give you residuals and don't give you any money off of your idea, like the idea of intellectual property. They want to basically get rid of it. And with some of these tech bros have said, we should get rid of intellectual property because it interferes with our machine learning. So that's a philosophical, sociological point of view. It's like human being, artistic creativity. If you're an artist, you're not going to be for somebody getting rid of your intellectual property.
Yeah.
That's a problem. So, like, not that every tool that gets created creates opportunities, it also creates, issues.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The concern is that people may go and just universally say, we can replace all the teachers. We can replace all the. So if people make decisions from top down instead of like bottom up.
Yeah. From the human perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. That becomes a problem if you get structural change from some people say, well, I'm a ruler. I have the point of view. I believe with the tech bros, we're just going to force this innovation.
Yeah.
Then that becomes
is
like
what actually happens.
Yeah. That's the problem.
Yeah. 100%.
I just think about people like trying to control your life. You can control you.
That's
to a
the
certain
one and
extent.
only thing. That's the one and only thing we have control over in life, Phantom. Yeah.
Yeah. So
What
how
we
do you
think, what we feel, and how we show up in the world.
yeah, how do you like control that self-talk that keeps you from taking the opportunity, from
Mm.
growing and being in a bad loop? Because that's, in this world, getting stuck in a bad loop could be very put you at an extreme disadvantage. I mean, it already puts you at a disadvantage, but it's going to put you even more of a disadvantage.
Yes, agreed. Yeah. And that's something that it sounds like you're referring to limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
And, I always talk about this. And it's the one thing that I think is the most powerful thing I've ever learned about self love and changing my mindset. And it's that when I'm sitting worrying about something, because that's what it is, right? When I'm sitting worrying about something or questioning whether I can accomplish something or chase something new or go after a new dream, I have to stop and hear what I'm listening to in my head. Like we touched on, that subconscious line of thinking. It rules over 90% of how we show up every day. It's automatic, it's habitual. We don't even think about it. So when we sit down to dream up that new job or write up a business plan or have that conversation that might be really scary and challenging, our brain goes through this automatic process of thought. And if we don't understand or hear what it is, we can't change it and choose something differently. So I am a huge proponent and fan of we need to talk to ourselves out loud and hear what's going on in our mind so that we can hear what's going on and start to notice it. But then ask that follow-up question by, Byron Katie, the famous gal who actually is the one known for this question, which is, hey, do I know this to be true? Just to say what we're thinking, to hear it so we can start to notice it, to ask if I know it to be true, because that answer 99% of the time is no, I don't know this to be true. Therefore, I can't believe it. I can't live by it anymore. So then that opens the door to create new thought, new action.
Well,
I think that hearing what we're saying inside quietly, it's like when we stub our toe, when we forget our keys, when we're walking into a presentation, when we're walking out on stage, what is going on in the brain? We're listening to it every minute of every day.
well, kind of what the Victorians talked about, the looking glass self. It's like
Mm,
self-examination. You look in the mirror, you kind of say, what do you hear? And what is your own filter? Like, like, what like, do you give yourself grace? Like,
mm,
are you like you might be critical of other people, but you might be more critical of yourself. So what
mhm.
is your self-talk? What are you saying to yourself? And if you keep on repeating that bad loop, like I'm not enough, I'm not gonna be anything, right? Because maybe your pop
Yeah,
said that,
I
or your
could
grandpa.
never do that.
Yeah,
I'll never
you
be
can
as
never.
good as Mark Twain. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you say that, you go and say, "Oh, I'm a bad cook," before you give somebody like your new recipe. Like you might immediately say you're the bad cook, so you're immediately trying to protect yourself from any kind of criticism. Well, I'm a bad cook, so like I'm never gonna cook good.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah, and
that
again, think about that. Is that true? Right?
yeah,
I
it's probably
I've
not
had
true.
this is I've had so many moments with clients where I've said, "Is that true?" Right? They make a statement like what you just said. I'm like, "Is that true?" And they're like, "Well, no." And you see this just opening up. It's like it's freeing. It's like, "No, I don't need to believe this stuff. I don't know where I picked it up. I can certainly go figure out where I picked it up, but I don't need to believe it. It doesn't need to define my life." Yeah,
It's
it's
kind of like remapping.
fascinating.
Well, and like
Pardon?
in remapping and kind of
Mhm.
because like in software design, we have what we call structural changes and non-structural changes. So structural changes, foundational, brand new tables, brand new columns and tables.
Right.
Non-structural change is like change of value in that column in an existing table.
Right.
Right? So
And in
when you
this
make that
world,
structural change, it's harder.
absolutely. But let's reference another well known individual, Dr. Joe Dispenza. And when we talk about neuroplasticity, we have the ability to change the way we think about things. We have the ability to change our brain. And we can do that with thinking the new thought and feeling what it would like to be in that space. Like that, his whole exercise around, okay, if you want to change, so you get out, you're about to go out on stage, and every time you're going out on stage, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to mess this up. I'm not as good as so and so. I'm never. Okay. So you're playing that thought. What if I screw up? What if I trip? What if I. And if you actually stop and follow this script, which is stop, take some deep breaths, and not necessarily in the moment. This is something that you would to reprogram to create new neural pathways. You would have this moment where you close your eyes and you picture yourself in a place where you're walking out on stage and you're confident and you're excited and you're so grateful and you feel certain that you're going to nail it. And you picture, you play that movie. And while you're playing that movie, you notice, what would that feel like if I were embodying that? And when you rehearse that mental visualization and the feeling that you feel in it, when you rehearse that over time, you can actually become that. And that's that neuroplasticity piece.
Kind of like
So,
where Buddhists believe that in our affirmations. I'm a Buddhist. Is like when we're chanting and we're practicing, our mindset. It's like we have these affirmations. Like I picture, like I am going to win. Everything today's going to be good. It's like, and some people might have a hard time with that because they say, well, that's silly, right? Or that's like you're being overconfident.
and it's
And like,
foreign.
yeah, it's not Western, it's more Eastern. So if
And
you
that's
have a
that.
Western mindset, you have a hard time with it.
Exactly. And that's that piece that we touched on earlier. That's foreign to say, I'm going to win. I'm going to nail this. I'm going to get this new job. I'm going to be a New York Times bestseller. To actually say those words out loud, it's one thing. Like to believe it is something in the distance. To just say it out loud, that is completely foreign. And our nervous system is like, that is the tiger and the wolf at the door. That's what that feels like, right? Like what we
Yeah.
touched on earlier.
Yeah, a lot of indigenous peoples too. I mean, I'm part Cherokee. Is like the mindset of like get yourself like in tune with like the ground, taking your socks off and feet touching
Mm,
soil, being
mm,
grounded in Gaia, like kind of like calming down. It's like, disconnect from all these technical things. Walk in a woods with your shoes off, your socks off. Don't have the headphones on. Listen to the stream, listen to the birds, listen to the wind. Kind of clear your mind. It's
mhm,
also kind of like what the Victorian poet said. Nature is the cathedral. So when
mm.
you connect to the
Beautiful.
earth and you get rid of some of this, mankind's all these things that we've created, all the technology, all the language. If you just kind of get yourself into your breathing, your spirit self, your soul self, your heart self, then that it's a different. It's hard because today we're so connected.
Mm,
There's so much noise.
mhm.
How do you get away from all that noise? you know.
Well, and that's interesting because that is when we can get quiet like that. That's when we can hear that wise internal knowing and that wise voice, right? I call it living with the head and the heart connected, right? Where we know this to be true and this is telling us we can't do it. So that connection between head and heart is so fascinating, something I talk about a lot. And to quiet down, it really is, I don't think we have to go to this place where we meditate and we sit for, from busy life, busy doing to be, all the bells and dings and touch points to all of a sudden turn into a meditation master. I don't think we need to do that. I think we just need to, there's this simple practice called heart focused breathing. It's like, I just need to turn my brain off for 3 minutes and think about my heart, right? And slow my breath down just a little bit and just think about this area of my heart and feeling it rising and falling and just noticing. Like we need to slow down. We do. And when we do, we have access to that internal wisdom, which is that subjective voice we talked about, not all that objective noise that tells us the way it should be.
Yeah, I think our world, like within like industrial kind of modern world, is we're so stuck in these patterns. We're stuck into the loop. So like what happens is like I lived in Japan and for 2 years, and I would go out there lunch hour in the park, and I'd see these like salarymen in their suits and ties doing Tai Chi during the middle of the day,
Cool.
right? Kind of just focusing, and then I could even see some people like in the job site, like in their cubicle, kind of just doing like breathing exercises for maybe a couple minutes, like what you're saying. And you had the people that would go do the Tai Chi, and other people who could find out where they could focus and kind of disconnect right there. So there was this dichotomy is like a spectrum. It was like you could go all the way to the park and do the Tai Chi, or you could figure out how to do that in the cube.
Right.
Yeah. And so there's a level of like certain people figuring, oh, I actually could bring this practice at a micro level, and I have to do it all the way, and I can still have a good result from it.
Absolutely, you can. Yeah. And it's baby steps, right? One thing at a time, one step at a time, which is perfectly enough.
But when you have to deal with yourself. Usually, like you start with yourself if you have all these bad loops and you have the bad self-talk, you're not giving yourself grace. And then eventually, like, we live in a world where we have social connections, relationships with people,
Mhm.
with your boss, with your family, with whoever. How do you get those dynamics, where a lot of people are having these, I don't know, miscommunication, bad communication,
Mm.
uh, you know, polar opposites. There's a lot of conflict,
Mhm.
but I think like you can't get rid of that conflict if you have conflict within, right?
True. There, it comes down to the simplest thing, Phantom. It's the simplest thing. Truly, truly. It's the art of listening. When we are and it's that self-loving perspective of not attaching what somebody else is saying to our worth. So I get that there are a bunch of layers here, and this is a practiced thing. But what I also know to be true is that when somebody says something that is edgy, irritating, upsetting to us, or pointed even, when we can take a breath, and this is where practicing the Tai Chi in the park or the breathing in the cubicle or going out and walking in the forest in your bare feet. But when we can actually take a breath and realize that what is being said, even if it's pointed and about me, it's not mine. It is not mine. And when I can actually take a breath and look at this person and say, interesting, tell me more about that. I have a choice. This is this thing the one thing we have control over. I have a choice in how I respond. And
Mhm.
don't get me wrong, you'll feel the trigger inside. You'll feel the trigger, you'll feel the activation. And it's about breathing and recognizing, okay, they've said something that has upset me. And I'm going to go after I'm done with this conversation, I'm going to figure out why it upset me because that's mine to deal with. But in this moment, I don't need to conclude that this is all about me, and I can actually get curious about it. And that's the key in these moments is the curiosity piece. So listening well is about being curious. It's like interesting that you say that. What makes you say that?
Mhm.
What I'm hearing is you just said this. Is that true?
Yeah.
Tell me more. Fascinating tool. It absolutely diffuses everything.
Because a lot of times what we hear is not really what was said. And sometimes you
100%.
you
Yeah.
have to ask, like, what is it that you meant by that? I heard this. What did you really mean? A lot of people then maybe go to like not to a road rage level, but they get triggered
Yeah.
and their filter heard this word, which triggers this thought, which means this person means this.
Yeah.
And instead of asking them, did you mean X or did you mean Y or did you mean Z? You just say, well, he meant X, and X ticks me off.
And
So then,
actually what they meant was A.
yeah, yeah, like how much are you listening to anything else they say,
Yeah.
other than figure out what like why did they say X? Like they're making me upset. Like they must, they must mean that they are A, B, C, or they're X, Y, Z. Is like so you get caught up, and then you're not even talking.
Well,
You're not
and the
really
minute
communicating.
and the minute we're flooded, we're hearing, I can't remember what the stat is. I think it's like I don't know if it's 23 or 13, but the minute we're flooded, we're hearing very little of what's actually being said, of what's even being said. I shouldn't say actually, what's being said. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's super fascinating. And you're right. What we do, this is why I say that's all about the art of listening. On my Substack, I'm on Substack as Heart Wisdom. And I have a piece that's titled Words Are Just Words. And what you're absolutely right in what we do is that when people talk to us or say things, we aren't actually listening. We are attaching it to how can I give them advice, or I have a story similar to this, or what's my opinion on this, and not turning that off. And this is this piece about the constant running of the brain. It's like, actually, you just be quiet for a minute. I want to hear what's happening
Hmm.
here. This goes back to this piece about human connection. It's like, wow, you seem really frustrated with me. Tell me more. That's not mine. Like, what a different world we would live in if that's the way it went.
Yeah, I think it's super interesting because I think like how we digest things like visually, kind of from vibes, from how we feel. I mean, musicians, like we can do this sometimes. Like you go and like you go play with some people you never play with. You listen to what they're playing, and then you assume you make some assumptions and you say, "Hey, this will go with that," right? And and then sometimes you're not. Then you might just go into your like muscle memory and you'll play what you think goes with it, but then you stop really listening to what they're doing. And the
Right.
trick is like as you get better as a musician, you're still listening to what they're doing and you're responding like with what the understanding is that you're not just throwing what you know, your muscle memory onto it. You're actually participating in real time and you're connecting. And when you do that, the other person will start nodding their head and they realize like you are vibing, you are connecting
Mm-hmm.
versus
Mm-hmm.
just blatantly just playing what you always play when you hear something like that. That
Just doing my
you're actually
thing.
doing my thing. So you see people who actually, well, they're actually creating something new, and you're not just regurgitating what you know. You're actually contributing to a useful conversation, a musical conversation. But that can be a real conversation. It could be a real collaboration if you're willing to kind of let go some things
Mm-hmm.
and be willing to kind of open up. Sometimes we're not willing to do that.
Mm-hmm. And I think that again is an automatic thing. Like we touched on the subconscious and the automatic way we show up in the world. It's go, 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 do, tick the list, got to get this done, got to get here, got to go there, got to be here, meet this deadline. It's like, whoa, what if we just take a breath and say hi to the barista this morning,
Yeah,
right?
it's kind of like
Acknowledge him
slowing
as
it.
a human being.
It's kind of like when you learn a piece of music, you actually play it very slow.
Mm,
As a musician, you knock it down like half the time of what it says it is to actually make sure you actually understand each note before you start to actually bring it up to what the real speed is.
mm,
I think a lot of times today we're just jumping right to be at the speed,
mm-hmm,
jumping right onto the tempo. Like, do you really have the precision to understand? Did you really understand what note you're hitting?
mm-hmm.
Maybe not.
Yeah. So the takeaway is slow down,
Yeah,
slow down. Yeah,
which
it's
is
been a
hard.
big theme for me. Yeah.
I think because the world is telling us to speed up. We're kind of being told you do a 160-hour week, 120-hour week. Be on,
Mm-hmm,
be there. Take that call at 2 in the morning from your boss. He texts you
mm-hmm,
like, boom, get it, jump on it. Not to say, well,
mm-hmm,
maybe I need some rest, maybe I need some grace, maybe I need some recovery. No, no, no. I have to go, 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 go,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and I'm measured on how fast I can go, 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 and respond immediately. Rather than like maybe you tell bosses like, I need some time to consider this. I can't give you an
Mm-hmm.
answer right now. It's going to take some thought versus like give me your opinion right now.
Great boundary. Great boundary. Yeah. Yeah.
Which I think
Have
some
you
people
ever
are
had
scared.
have you ever had yeah. Have you ever had a moment where you've been forced to slow down?
Yeah, I mean, I've had situations where I just felt based on my experience that giving the answer right now is not the best decision based on
Mhm.
knowing how things work that if I give that answer, it's highly likely it's going to be a bad decision. It's not going to be well considered, and I need the time for the quality's sake. For like, I want to produce as good as best thing I can do. And if you're just measuring me on how fast I can do it, I don't think you care about the quality. Because
Mm-hmm.
I spend a lot of time in quality assurance with technology. And the one thing they do in quality assurance is like you can bet that the project manager, you tell them you need 5 weeks to test it, they'll tell you to do it in 2 days.
Mm.
And then you got to push back. Like if you really want this to be a quality product, we've got to make it this, we've got to negotiate. It can't be 2 days.
Right.
Right. I said it was 5 weeks. Maybe it could be 2.5 weeks. But I'm gonna push back. It's like you tell me to do it in 2 days. Like you're not gonna get what you need. And
Mm-hmm.
that's hard because some people will like you're out the door. We'll get the guy who will do it.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll just do it because he told them to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Not that they're actually doing it right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think the slowing down thing, you're right. It is hard in this hustle culture that we have. And we also have this culture which is telling us, hey, go out, ground, meditate, right? Hear your thoughts. So they both play in the same ring. But I do believe, I've had things happen in my life where I've literally been forced to slow down physically, mentally, slow it all down. And it's taught me a lot about how our nervous system, that sympathetic nervous system, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, is in overdrive all the time. It's on high alert all the time. And there's something to be said for slowing it down. And like we talked about, the reason why we slow it down, for people who are listening and are like, we don't have time for that. The reason why we slow it down is because it gives us access to what serves us best. It gives us access to that inner wisdom that will guide us to the next best thing. It will provide the answer in the testing boardroom. It'll provide the answer in the conversation that we're having with the family member. Like we have so much wisdom in here. And this world of busyness is its job, I think, is to mute it. If we can talk conspiracy theories here, but there's something to be said for slowing down and hearing the inner wisdom that we all carry. And that inner wisdom is the complete opposite of not enough or too much.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's kind of like in the spectrum. This is the really hard situation where you want people want to have like yes, no, black and white, it's right or wrong. And it tends to be a spectrum. There tends to be a lot of options. Like in my work in software, there's like so many different ways to do this algorithm.
Mm.
No, you could do an algorithm in a very complicated way that could actually handle like the what we call the unhappy path, like the exception process. Like you have these things that only occur so many times. They're not the normal path, right? But this algorithm can handle it. This other algorithm can only handle a very limited amount of data. And if 90% of the data is like that, that's fine. But what happens if that like 10% actually has a lot of value? What if the unhappy path you get like the $1 million, $200 million thing that happens, but it doesn't happen all the time.
Mm.
But this more complicated thing can handle it. A lot of times you have to argue that with the board people, and they don't always get it unless you figure out a way to explain it to them so they can get it.
Mm.
And that becomes like the real hard argument to make, as a lot of people say, well, it's more complicated. You can't have that. Simplify everything.
Mm-hmm.
Make it faster, more simple. And yeah, keep it simple is an engineering code, but sometimes you
Right.
have to handle that situation because not everything fits into the box.
Right. Back to the box.
Yeah, it takes longer, and then people don't want to hear that something takes longer. It's like you want it done in 3 months, 6 months. You
Yeah.
tell them it's going to take 18 months. They're like, oh no, no, they don't want to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
And
funny.
sometimes, yeah,
Go ahead.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
Back in a previous life, I was told that if you're asked to do something And your answer, because we have this need to perform, your answer is, I'm going to need 2 days to do that. This mentor looked at me and said, don't ever answer that until you double it. Double your time. Give yourself a buffer. And
Hmm.
it's interesting, right? That's just back to this piece about giving ourselves a little grace,
Yeah.
giving ourselves a little space. Yeah. Slowing down just a little.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a hard thing if you've been told, like, you have to have, audits come in and like they want to assess, like, is this really the time it takes to do it? When you give yourself grace, you're kind of overestimating. So it's like you
Mm,
have this competing things. It's like you have to tell the truth. Your audit's going to come and they're going to say, like, what does it really take to do that? I mean, if you and then you go and tell them like it takes 4 days, when it actually takes 2 days, and then they're on you. But
right.
so it's like you have to deal with like all these different things, and then you have to like I say, hey, I'm giving myself a buffer. Like you said, there's so
Yes.
much stuff, and you have to give yourself recovery time. It's like
Mm-hmm.
we're not machines. It's like the problem I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of times, at least in the corporate world, is we're being measured like we're a machine, like we're the
Mm,
widget, and like we're a human being, and the widget might not feel good today, might be sick today, might have something on their mind, might have stress, and not every day is the same, and you're assuming this is like some automaton, and you're not given
mm,
any grace or recovery time,
mm-hmm.
you know. And
Yeah.
how
Back
do
to
you
that.
do that?
Yeah. It sounds like it's back to that seeing humans, right? In that moment, right? Seeing that we are all human beings and we all need the time to slow down. And this may sound kind of crazy. I'm kind of interesting that I'm going to say this. This is why I believe things happen in life, like we get sick or we get hurt and we are actually forced to slow down. I
Mhm.
think it serves a purpose. Even though
Yeah.
you're sick and you're like, you can't do anything, you need to recover and your body's in overdrive trying to heal it and get better. But I really do think there's a reason why we are given these moments where we're literally forced to slow down and take a rest.
Yeah, I'm a cancer survivor, so I'm aware of that. Because when I was 27,
Mm,
I had a level 3, sarcoma, and, I'm still here, I'm 58, but it was a big wake-up call. 'Cause I'm in my, late 20s, so I'm a, like, go-getter, I'm doing, like, the 120% doing, and then suddenly I'm forced to get out of the rat race for, like, 6 to 8 months and deal
wow.
with my health. And when you're like in your, you're under 30, you're thinking you're going to live forever. Like you don't have any
No
kind of
kidding.
mortality thinking. And it really
Mm-hmm.
changed my mindset in terms of
Mm-hmm.
what I was willing to do. And in terms of like, I gave myself some grace for the creative things I like to do. Like there are some people that they'll do like 99% or 120% for their corporate job. And they don't give themselves, like maybe they're a painter. Maybe
Mm,
like they have some hobby, but they'll give it up because they got to put 120% into the job. And I made a decision after that cancer is like, I'm going to still put in things that like I feel are important for me in terms of like art and what I want to do with my own private life and give a buffer between what I give to the company and what I give to me.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. I was wondering if there was a story in there with you when I asked, have you ever had a moment in life where you've been forced to slow down? And yeah, you have.
Yeah, that was the big
Yeah.
slowdown.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, congrats on conquering that.
I think that you shouldn't have to have that happen though. I think that's the lesson from that was, like if something like that happens, like you're forced to, and your body kind of forces you to deal with it. And I
Mhm.
think your body will tell you, but sometimes it's probably better than to kind of give yourself some grace before your body tells you got to give yourself grace.
No, great advice. Yeah, great advice.
So like enoughness. I know we talked about being too much and not enough, but well, what is enoughness in like, your definition?
Mm. It's that sentence which says, I'm doing the very best that I can right now with what I have, with what I know. and believing it.
Mm-hmm.
That's enough. Enough is right here, right now. Being present in this space right here, right now is enough. And what if we were to believe that when we do that thing at work? What if we were to believe that this is enough, as opposed to believing I could do more, I could be better? We get to choose this line of thinking. And I think this is a big part of grace and self-forgiveness, which is, no, I am enough. Can I continue to learn? Can I continue to grow? Can I continue to strive? Absolutely. While believing that I am enough here and now. Those things grow really well together. When we sit in a space where we don't believe we're enough and we want to do more, how on earth did we do more when we already believe we're underachieving?
Mm-hmm.
Right? That doesn't work well together, I think. I think there's this, why not? We're stuck with our thoughts 24 hours a day, every day for the rest of our lives. Why not believe that I'm enough? I think it's an enormous gift.
I think
And
we
it's not
see
that,
change. You see change for some people. They
yeah.
get to
And
that.
it's given this thing, like, it's given this reputation of that it's arrogant to think that way.
Mm,
And right? And I'm like, it's not that you need to walk around and say, there's a big difference between internally believing that I am enough, I am doing enough, I am perfectly enough, I'm perfectly beautiful right here, right now, and standing up on a mountaintop and saying, I'm the king of this and I'm the boss of this and I know all of
yeah,
this. Like,
yeah,
there's a big difference there.
that's
So
different. Yeah, it's
I
not the same.
yeah, yeah.
But it's like people sometimes don't maybe understand where you're coming from. They you said enoughness, and they think you're thinking you're the king or queen
Mm.
because that's how they project what you told them. So they're not listening to what you just said. Where it's like there's it's not the same thing. And so I
No,
think
very
it's like,
different.
yeah, that's the level of I don't know, critical thinking or listening skills or comprehension, like reading comprehension or just knowledge, or in terms of like Socratic method is like, are you actually taking in what you said and then applying it and say, hey, is this the example of what you said?
Hmm.
Versus making an assumption of that's what you said.
Hmm.
To get
Back to that
validation.
listening piece. Yeah. Back to that listening piece and getting curious, right? And this
Yeah.
whole conversation today, there's like this theme. It's like slowing down to listen, right? Getting curious so that we can actually hear. So, yeah, the I just really believe we are enough. And like I said, it doesn't mean that we don't strive to accomplish new things and we don't strive to grow and become, get more money, make more money, drive this, have this. It doesn't mean we don't want that and can't chase that. It just
Mhm.
simply means that we're no longer sitting in a place of uneasy self-doubt.
Yeah. It's not comfortable. If you live in discomfort, you should try to get to a place where you at least have some peace or grace.
Mm,
Not that you can have that 100% of your day. We try to strive to have as much as you can.
yeah.
But I
Yeah.
want to thank you. I
Agreed.
know you have some things you have to do, but I want to thank you for being on the show today, and like let people know we do have that QR code again to get to your website for your masterclass. So if people go to that, what do they find there quickly before you have
Yeah,
to go?
there's a little dreamscaping masterclass. So it's a little mini workshop that will, it's actually quite in line with what we talked about today. It can help you prepare for things in life. It can help you learn how to respond differently. So it speaks to that neuroplasticity piece and actually that exercise we talked about, how we can change our brain through the visualization and the emotion, and actually walk through that in more detail in the masterclass. So it's a freebie. It's thank you for putting up the QR code so people can go and have access to it. It's been a real joy talking to you. I feel like we could just keep jamming on this stuff. Thank you, Phantom.
Well, thank you. Have a great rest of your Saturday, and
Thank you. You too.
I hope you have a good rest of your weekend. Thank you
Maybe
again
we'll
for being
go walk barefoot in the woods today.
on the show. Yeah. Have a great day. Thank you.
You too, Phantom. Bye.